5 Secret of IKEA. How IKEA used the psychology to become the world's largest furniture retailer. Founded in 1943 by Ingrav Kamprad, IKEA sells ready-to-assemble furniture, appliances, and home accessories. What started as a vision to bring interior design to the masses grew to the 445 IKEA stores operating in 52 countries. It's been the world's largest furniture retailer since 2008. But did you know that IKEA used the psychology to help drive the success? Principles like scarcity, endowment, and priming effect laid the foundation for the company's success. Then let's take a closer look at each of the 5 secrets of IKEA's success and let's hack it. Let's start with a question. How IKEA uses psychology to create addictive products. At first, the IKEA effect, when labor leads to live. Do you guys know that there is a psychology theory named after the IKEA brand name itself? That is really awesome. This chapter is especially thanks to the Harvard Business School professor Michael Norton's study, The IKEA Effect When Labor Lives to Live. How sweet naming it is, it's like a lyric. Labor lives to live. Anyway, in the paper, there are 4 studies in which customers assemble IKEA boxes, folded origami, and build a set of Legos. The research team demonstrated and investigated the boundary conditions for the IKEA effect, the increase in valuation of self-made products. Participants of the study saw their amateur's creation as similar in value of expert creation and expected others to share their opinions. There are some kind of limits on this effect, but in some, they clearly show that labor increases valuation. Then let's take a look at some marketing examples of this effect, starting with a cake mix. In the 1950s, the story goes, US food company General Mills wanted the idea on how to sell more of its Betty Crocker brand of instant cake mixes. It was psychologist Ernest Ditcher, the father of the motivational research on the case. Ditcher ran for cost groups, changed the recipe. He then advised the company, replace powdered eggs in the cake mix with a requirement to add fresh eggs. All instant cake mixes make the baking too easy. It undervalued the labor and the skill of the cake maker. Give the baker more ownership on the final result. How ironic is that instant cake mixes had been ranked in the sales because that is too instant. The sales of the Betty Crocker had been skyrocketed. Almost 7 decades later, the idea of making things more laborious to get the customer to value them more is an established marketing tactic. We now know it as the IKEA effect. Simply speaking, IKEA effect can refer to as one sentence: convenience isn't everything. As we are living in a world full of convenience and automation, this can be somewhat strange, but when it comes to the valuation, this effect got some point. Having customers do most of the work, feel greater about it, and at the same time perceive they have attained a greater value for money. Even if the Ditcher's cake mix story is more the legend than the history, food and the grocery brand are using the IKEA effect to attain the new value-seeking customers. Consider ready-to-create meal kit, pre-packaged raw ingredients you prepare and cook yourself. This meal seeks to balance the desire for convenience with the concerns with health eating and the pleasure of cooking. While many retailers focus their effort on speedy deliveries and ready-made, convenient solutions, the IKEA effect guides us a different way of marketing. One step further, the IKEA effect can also be found in the technology companies like LinkedIn and Glassdoor. They ask their users to fill in the tremendous amount of contents in a profile, requires a huge amount of labor to fill out all the forms they ask for. As they took too much effort on signing up to the platform, the users build a bond with the platform itself and act on them. This true platform's marketing approach is outstanding when it comes to the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We can almost sign in those apps in a second, but not on a LinkedIn and Glassdoor. IKEA effect states that people attribute more value to the product they've helped create. In other words, labor lives to live. The second, the choice overloaded effect. This principle states that while some choices can be good, too much choices will overwhelm customers and become a barrier to the sales. According to the research, 46% of customers have failed to complete a purchase online due to the overwhelming choices. The negative effect of choices can be much worse than the missed sales. Research showed that when there are too much options, customers feel anxious, will be disengaged, and can even become depressed. Then how IKEA avoid choice overload and leverage this psychological trick. If you have experienced buying some stuff at IKEA, this effect is pretty clear. Most IKEA furniture comes in a limited variety of colors and size. For businesses, standardizing choices allow for production efficiency that lower the cost. For customers, limiting choices makes them more likely to buy rather than browse. Constraining options to black, white, and oak finish simplifying the buying process. The only thing you have to choose is whether you buy it or not. Once upon a time in Springfield, the Simpson family visited a new supermarket. Monster Market's slogan was "Where shopping is a baffling ordeal." Product choice was unlimited, shelving reaches the ceiling, Nutmeg came in 12 baby boxes, and express checkout has a sign reading 1,000 items or less. In the end of that episode, the Simpsons returned to Apple's Kwik-E-Mart. In doing so, the Simpsons were making the choices to reduce their choice. It wasn't quite a rational choice, but it makes sense. In the parlance of economic theory, they were not rational utility maximizers, but in Herbert Simpson's term, satisficer, opting for what was good enough rather than becoming confused to the point of inertia in the further Monster Mart's range of products. Barry Schwartz, an American psychologist and a professor of social theory at Swarthmore University, theorized all the above situation in his book, The Paradox of Choice. In this book, he argued that we end up less satisfied with the result of choice than we would be if we had fewer options to choose from. When there are lots of alternatives to consider, it's easy to imagine the attractive features of alternatives that you rejected that make you less satisfied with the alternatives you have chosen. Increased choices, they can make us miserable because of regrets, self-blame, and opportunity cost. Worse, the increased choices had created a new problem. They escalated in expectations. Here comes some tricky words like opportunity cost, but let's make it simple in one sentence. The less is more. So far, we've been dealt with IKEA's marketing skills in a product catalog. Then let's go inside the IKEA store. How psychology helps IKEA create unforgettable store experiences. If you have visited the IKEA store, you probably experienced going in for one or two things, then walking out with full of cart. That impulse is due to the two features of the store layout, its one-way system and the circular design. At this moment, the third and the fourth point came out. The third, scarcity effect. This effect, coined by Professor Robert Charbonnet in his book Influence, states that humans place a higher value on scarce items. Charbonnet describes scarcity in this way. When our freedom to have something is limited, the item becomes less available and we experience an increased desire for it. However, we hardly recognize that the psychological reactance has caused us to want the item more, only when they said we want it. Then, how scarcity helps grow the IKEA brand? Because IKEA store design uses a one-way traffic system, it creates a feeling of scarcity. The design forces customers to put any items that catch their eye in their cart right away. Why is that? Let's say you stop to consider a lamp but then decide not to put in your cart. If you change your mind, the store design makes it inconvenient to go back and get the lamp. You'll have to walk through the entire store to get back that section. No small feat when an average IKEA store is around 300,000 square feet. Let's say simply, it's around 5 American football field. The giant size of the store and a maze-like design stimulates the scarcity effect and indirectly force the customer to put items into their cart. The fourth, endowment effect. Thanks to the scarcity effect, the customer put items into their cart, but putting things into the cart and make the actual purchase is a different story. How IKEA makes a customer actually buy their products and get them to their home? The answer is the endowment effect. The endowment effect states that people place a higher value on the items that they own or intend to buy. Ownership or intent to own create an emotional bond that the people don't want to break. It's really an interesting theory that a person's decision affects emotion and make the decision solid, like a virtuous circle heading to the purchase. In other words, irrational emotions can be a static catalyst to the rational decisions and vice versa. This can happen in diverse areas but frequent on the action of purchase. Anyway, how does Endowment Effect help grow the IKEA brand? When a customer puts something in their cart, they begin to dream about their future with those items, fantasizing about how it will look in their living room and how much guests will admire it. Once customers create pre-memories, they become emotionally bound to those items. That's why IKEA stores design with various home style concepts. While they visit their conceptual home styles, customers' emotional bond to those items in their cart are growing and powerful. The Endowment Effect is incredibly effective at driving sales. Because once you bond to an item, you don't want to walk back through the 300,000 square foot one-way store to get it. Instead, the customers are more likely to put it in the cart just in case than never take it out again. And you can find the just-in-case items in your home sweet home. As Alan Pan, professor at University College London, put it in this way, IKEA gets you buy the stuff you really hadn't intended on, and that, I think, is quite a trick. At last, let's finish the story with a delicious IKEA signature meatballs. Priming Effect, the secret of meatballs. First demonstrated in the 1970s, priming is when our brain calls an unconscious connection in a response to the stimulus, also called primes. In other words, what we are exposed to now changes our behavior later. Priming is passive, subtle, and people aren't aware it's happening, and it can be activated with almost any kind of stimulus. Images, words, smells, light, sounds, task, touch, or temperature can all unconsciously affect our choices. Then, how the priming effect grew the IKEA? It's time to unveil the secret of IKEA meatball. At first glance, it might not seem like IKEA food has an effect on the furniture sales, but according to the company's research, 30% of its shoppers come to the store just to eat. In 2017, the company made a $2.24 billion from food sales. That makes them the 10th largest food retailer in the world. The food at the IKEA doesn't only have an impact on the bottom line, it also has a priming effect on how customers think, feel, and act in the store. Eating primes at a state of happiness, and the mood can affect how much customers spend and what they buy. As former head of the IKEA food operator told Fast Company, we've always called the meatballs the best sopa seller. When you feed them, they stay longer, they can talk about their potential purchases, and they make a decision without leaving the store. In fact, IKEA's iconic Swedish meatball hotplate was a brainchild of the founder, late Ingrav Kamprad. He worried that the customers would get hungry while browsing his massive warehouses. And he always said that no one can do the business with a hungry client. The answer was IKEA's iconic meatball and lingonberry jam. Then it's time for wrapping up all the stories. There are many behavior science and psychological principles at work in IKEA's experience. Whether the company know it or not, IKEA uses them to help make the brand more engaging. In the world of automation and an e-commerce boom, IKEA continues to grow, even through the pandemic. Starting from IKEA Effect, choice overload, scarcity, endowment, and lastly, priming effect. Let's hack IKEA's success key. Thank you so much for watching my video, and please subscribe to my channel and show your thumbs up. And I will hop around the world and bring lots of thousands of funny stories to you. Let's hop around together. Thank you, and see you again.